He's one of the most famous inventors of all time. He's credited with inventing both the light bulb and the phonograph, two inventions that revolutionized the way we live. But which one was actually his greatest? I'm the host, and you're watching this channel. And today we're answering the extraordinary, how did Thomas Edison invent the light bulb? To answer that question, we need to go back to 1879. By this point, Edison had already invented the phonograph, which could record sound onto a rotating cylinder using a needle and a sheet of tinfoil. The machine was an instant hit and demonstrated to the world that sound recording was possible. But Edison was by no means a one-hit wonder. Over his lifetime, he would file over 1,000 patents, more than any other individual in history. His research lab in Menlo Park, New Jersey, was responsible for some of the most groundbreaking inventions of the 19th century, including the first practical incandescent light bulb. But unlike what you might have heard, Edison didn't actually invent the first light bulb. That honor goes to Henry Woodward, an English electrician who patented a light bulb design in 1824. Unfortunately, Woodward's invention wasn't very practical. It consisted of a glass sphere filled with a small amount of highly flammable alcohol vapor, along with a wick like a candle. When ignited, the alcohol would burn and produce a bright flame that shone through the glass. But as you can imagine, this created a serious fire risk and it never caught on. It would take another 55 years before someone came up with a safer alternative. Enter Thomas Edison. On October 22, 1879, after years of experimenting with different materials, Edison and his assistant Joseph Swan successfully created the first incandescent light bulb that could be used safely inside a home or business. But they faced stiff competition from another inventor named Joseph Henry, who had also been working on a similar invention. Both Edison and Henry's light bulbs were presented to the public at the 1880 Paris exhibition, but Edison's design won out because it had a much longer lifespan. Edison's light bulb could last up to 1,000 hours, while Henry's bulb only lasted about 300. This made Edison's invention much more practical for everyday use. The light bulb would quickly become one of the most important inventions of the Industrial Revolution. It allowed factories to stay open longer and gave people an entirely new way to light up their homes. Before this, gas lamps and candles were the only real options for lighting, but both were expensive and dangerous. The light bulb changed everything, and it wasn't long before Edison was a household name. But he wouldn't rest on his laurels for long. In 1877, Edison founded the Edison Electric Light Company to manufacture and distribute his new invention. But the company's future success would depend on whether or not they could convince people that electric lighting was better than gas lighting. In order to do this, Edison and his team developed a comprehensive plan to bring electric lighting to the masses. They built power plants, installed miles of wiring throughout cities, and even created a new type of battery that could easily be recharged. By 1882, they had convinced investors that electric lighting was the future, and the first commercial power plant opened in New York City. Within just a few years, electric lights could be found in factories, street lamps, and even the White House. So while it took years of hard work and dedication, Edison's invention of the light bulb truly revolutionized the way we live. But how did he invent the phonograph? As a child, Edison suffered from hearing loss due to scarlet fever. By the time he was 12 years old, he was almost completely deaf. This made him extremely determined to find a way to better understand and capture sound. As a young man, he taught himself how to telegraph and worked as a telegraph operator, which helped him develop an interest in electrical engineering. But his dream of inventing a machine to record sound never faded. It wasn't until 1877, however, that Edison would make any significant progress. At the time, the telephone had been invented, but there was still no practical way to record or reproduce sound. Edison and his assistant, a former opera singer named Enrico Carusone, wanted to change that. Over the course of several months, they experimented with various methods for capturing sound waves using a diaphragm and a needle. Their goal was to create a machine that could both record and reproduce sound, something that had never been done before. On February 25, 1877, they finally succeeded. Using a rotating cylinder coated in a layer of tinfoil, they were able to capture and then play back a brief phrase, Mary had a little lamb. Though the sound quality was rough, it was still a huge step forward. For the first time in history, sound could now be recorded and reproduced. And although Edison would continue to improve the phonograph throughout his life, his greatest accomplishment was simply proving that it was possible. So which invention was actually his greatest? There's no doubt that Thomas Edison was a brilliant inventor. He created machines that forever changed the way we communicate and illuminate our world. But if we're being honest, his invention of the phonograph was more important than his light bulb. The phonograph gave us the ability to capture and reproduce sound, which led to the creation of music recording, radio, and even movies. Without the phonograph, who knows where our technology would be today? This has been the extraordinary. How did Thomas Edison invent the light bulb? And the extraordinary. How did Thomas Edison invent the phonograph? If you want to learn more about these amazing inventions, check out the links below. And don't forget to subscribe so you can catch our newest videos every week.